So
Yeah, but this time.
oh,
No.
yeah, people are going to be really bored by next week. You know, so I take it the content obviously it streams live on Facebook, and obviously I'm assuming once it's streamed on YouTube, it stays there.
These are questions I'm working out as I'm going now. I've never
Right,
done it
right,
before.
right. But the Facebook content, once it's finished streaming, will it still continue to be there? Will it just
Yeah,
disappear?
no, I think it stays there. Yeah,
Mm.
yeah. So this is all completely new territory to me. I'm trying to
So is
work
it
out if I'm actually because I've set it up to do it on. Does it say? Yeah, it reckons that it is.
right? Reckons it's
So
doing it.
yeah, but I can you load up YouTube on yours?
Yeah,
Go to just search for Behind the Nose podcast and see if it's streaming.
yeah, yeah. I will do that. I can do that for you.
You might as well
Do you want me
subscribe while you're there.
that's a cheap trick.
While you do
That really is a cheap trick.
while you do that, I'll start streaming to Periscope, which is basically Twitter.
So, okay.
Tweet this broadcast, of course.
Well, let me check Facebook first because that's the first one you put up, and actually, I'm logged into that, so that's an easy one to do. So, and it should give me a notification for that. Oh, it hasn't. Actually, I thought it might have given me a notification. It hasn't. Behind the noise.
This is crazy. Right, Periscope now.
Okay. Yes. I've got you on Facebook. That's fine.
Cool.
Right, YouTube next. I can't subscribe because I don't even know if I've got a YouTube account. I'm afraid I am. I am terrible with YouTube in terms of.
There we go. We are on Periscope as well.
Well, yeah. YouTube's there and doing its thing. It's me talking. I am terrible with talking.
No, let's listen to us.
Listen to us now. I don't want that.
That's good though. It's weird that I can't see that on YouTube that we're broadcasting live, but so it is. Have you seen it? Is it on YouTube?
YouTube's fine. Yeah, I just heard myself, which was a really really scary experience. Brilliant. I've got used to my own voice, but seeing myself speaking, bearing in mind it literally is like a 30 or 15 second lag. That's. I'll go back to looking at my Wix click and collect order confirmation. It's far less distracted.
So this was something that someone showed me the other day. I don't know if it's still.
It's hard to manage your workload.
No adverts. It was like a live update of all the coronavirus cases per country in the world.
All right. Okay.
At the same time.
Right. Okay.
How accurate it is, I don't know.
Right. I don't suppose we've got a way of checking.
Well, on the news earlier today, they said that worldwide it was over 600,000.
Yeah,
600,000. If you look there, top says 622,000 there.
Yeah.
Can you see that, or is that too small for you to see?
It's too small for me to see, particularly because I'm basically blind.
What about
it's still a bit small, really. Even with my glasses on, it's a bit small.
So world 622,000. USA's next with 105,000.
Right.
So USA is the top country.
Which is surprising because obviously Donald had said he was doing really well with it.
Donald says, yeah.
Donald said how well he was doing. He gave himself 10 out of 10, didn't he?
Donald says how well he's doing at everything, even when he's not.
I don't know whether he's worked out that in this case you don't want to be the biggest number.
No, definitely not. It's very scary.
Yeah, it is. Well, I go different ways on this because in one breath you look at the fatality rate versus the cases rate and you get really scared because you get scared about numbers that started to get towards 10% and you go, oh my God, that's like, line up 10 people that I know and one of them's gonna be done for. The flip is obviously we don't know how many mild cases there are out there. We don't know how many people have actually got it in the community. In the UK, the only way you've been tested is if you've effectively put yourself in hospital or you're a prime minister.
Yeah, you've already got the symptoms.
So you've already got it. And you've got it to the extent that you have required hospitalisation, not that you've got it. So how many people who have had the symptoms and are self-isolating at home are there? Because those people haven't been tested.
Yeah, so what we need now is really be able to go to like Boots or something, or the NHS deliver to us kits so we can test whether we've had it, we've got it, or we've not got it.
Well,
preferably all that in one test.
Yeah. Yes. No, I go with that. And if they could do it with a meal deal at the same time, so they bring you lunch, then that'd be fantastic.
Well, for some people that could be essential. And also, where's Boris Johnson and all these ministers? Where their tests coming from?
Yes, they're not coming from Boots, are they? I don't think. I don't think Boris is.
As soon as it because they show symptoms, boom, tested, got it.
Yeah.
Straight away.
Yeah.
We can't do that.
Prince Charles. To be fair, I know they've passed that off as being yes, he was in Scotland or wherever he was, so therefore it was a different kind of thing. But yeah, he very quickly got tested. Yeah, it's showing mild symptoms. Apparently, we don't know. But I'm hoping it's. I'm happy at one or two things. I'm either hoping that it's absolutely tip of the iceberg in terms. Well, actually, it's the same thing I'm hoping for. There was a report out 3 or 4 days ago from an Oxford University from a professor who thought at this point she thought half the country was already infected.
Right.
But I guess that's a scary thought. But then at the same time, you think, well, if that's the case, because she plotted it back, and she thought the infections had started in January.
Yeah, I've heard that as well.
And if that's the case, then you've got a whole load of people who've either had very mild symptoms, which is funny because anecdotally, I know a lot of people who were ill in January, who had a flu kind of thing in January.
I know people who had it at Christmas.
Yes. So
like a whole family just got wiped out. They were all bedridden. They just couldn't get out of bed. And then fast forward a week later, all fine.
So here's the thing: how many people? And this is the bit where I guess to a certain extent we're clinging on to, and which is why we need the antibody test probably more than the test. How many people have built up a resistance by now?
There could be loads of people more than we would assume have already had it.
Yeah. And we don't know. And you're back to World Health Organization here, really, who are saying test. You've got to test. And the only way we're going to get out of this is data, and we haven't got enough data.
Or if we have, that we're not being shown it.
No.
Whether
so
that's
I don't
potentially supposedly for our own good or not, I don't know.
Well, anybody can divide out the data that we are getting. So the confirmed cases and the fatality rate we're all getting. Well, that's kind of the worst data you can have, really.
Yeah.
Because none of that looks. If you're in Italy now, sat looking at the the incidence rate versus the fatality rate, that's not making for pleasant reading if you're in a football team.
Yeah.
Because you're going to be looking for a new keeper.
Yeah.
So I think we do need a little bit more to help understand this, and I don't know how long that's going to take. And I can only assume that it just is taking a long time to get those tests and be happy those tests are reliable. Because if you would ramp up on that if you could, but I don't know. We'll wait and see. But I guess if we're all behaving and we're all doing the right thing, and I think we've been out. We've been out once this week. In terms of 2 places where there would be other people, and that wasn't me. That was Alison, and she went shopping, and she ended up having to go 2 places to get what we needed, which in a perfect world would have gone to 1, and that's it. Are you
trying online deliveries?
We've tried, but you just it's like if we can take our social interaction down to 1 shopping trip a week, that is a massive change in our interaction.
Yeah.
Because I think what they were looking for was effectively a 75% reduction in people's social interaction. And that would bring about the desired result. Well, bearing in mind she would go to work in an office, and I used to do football training 4 times a week with under 7s, under 13s. And then there's the kids and the number of people they would be involved with at school, particularly with my eldest who's at high school with 2,000 other people. So if you look at them, I mean, they haven't gone anywhere for a week other than the house and the back garden.
How old are your kids?
Jack's 7 and Josh is 12.
So how have you explained it to them, or are the old enough to just fully understand it?
To be fair, the schools did a really good job of explaining it before we got there. Because if you think it's been floating around with the hand washing and all the other things for a little while, and other things like, school trips getting cancelled, lots of things changing with regard to schools that were cancelled. So the schools did a really good job of explaining it. The thing that's difficult is when they forget. So a ball gets kicked over the fence, and they'll just dash around to knock on the door of our neighbour. Now, our neighbour is in her 60s with underlying health issues, so she's somebody who she's been battened down for like 10 days, and it's that moment when they just dash out the garden to go and knock on her door, and you have to kind of shout and go, well, look, you can't do that, because they forget in that moment, and all they really want is to get the ball back, or the Nerf darts, or the bean bags, or any number of things that have gone over that fence this week. But apart from that, so far they've been fine, and I think that we've had a reasonable stab at getting into a routine with schooling this week. So that's kind of worked okay.
So you're doing homeschooling yourself?
Yeah. So Alison's she works for a pharmaceutical company, so she's classed as a key worker. But she's working from home.
So you're head teacher then? So
I'm the only one in my family, on my side of the family, that doesn't work in education. So my mum and dad both teachers. Then my dad was a head teacher. Mum was a head of infants. My brother was teacher and then deputy head and now head teacher. His other half is a head teacher as well, because teachers tend to marry teachers. It's like policemen and
yeah.
They're remarkably incestuous.
And contestants on Strictly Come Dancing and such.
Yes, yeah. all those things that go together, and politicians and porn. No, let's not go there. And I've always not poo-pooed the whole teacher thing, but don't know. I've a little bit done the whole you're on
how
holiday.
Hard can it be?
How hard can it be?
It takes a lot of patience
until you get to 9 o'clock on a Monday morning and you try and home tutor a 7-year-old.
Yep.
And
concentration or lack thereof.
And I can't do phonics. I just can't do phonics. What's a grapheme? What's a phoneme?
What's a question here? I don't know what the answer is. Do you?
What on earth are you talking about? Dad, that's a so-and-so. It's a what? You can't say squirties for squirrel and just get away with it.
So the school provided you with stuff to teach them?
Yeah. The kid, they've had loads of work home that theoretically they can do on their own. And to be fair, Josh is fine. Josh is absolutely fine because
12-year-old.
He's effectively stuck to his curriculum.
Right. Is it all basically online stuff?
Well, they've got the way the high school works is they've got loads of online platforms they use. So they have a maths platform and they have another. So they have platforms to monitor the homework, and then they have platforms that they can do stuff on. So they might be set exercises on a certain thing. So like his maths platform's called Hegarty, and he will go on and do some stuff on Hegarty. And then all the teachers are literally this platform called Frog, which is what they use to keep in touch, where they can message and what have you. The teachers are just putting work on there all the time and answering queries and what have you. So it's actually, for that age group, it's actually not complicated. And he's been very good. We've done Joe Wicks in the morning.
Exercise is the other key part, isn't it?
Yeah. So they've done the Joe Wicks thing in the morning. They have. I haven't. I've carried on just running, but they've done the Joe Wicks thing.
Yeah.
I'm going to cover most of my podcast actually for this week. So anybody who listens to the podcast this week will just hear the same things again. I've got a difficult relationship with Joe Wicks. In terms of what he's doing is fantastic, and I think he had 1 million kids or something that he was streaming to on one day this week, and it was absolutely superb. But no man has a right to look that good at 9 o'clock in the morning. So
there's always the exceptions.
Well, I swing between loving what he's doing and wanting to punch him square in the face. And so I've got a kind of a difficult thing going on with Joe at the moment. Just
jealousy.
Well, yeah, because Alison's there just dribbling, literally. And I'm sure there's a lot of,
Well, you should be using it as motivation, You're not over the hill.
Well, no, I know. But if
there was ever time, now is the time.
But look at that hair. You can't compete with that hair. You cannot compete with that hair. I mean, No, no, no. So yeah. So the kids have done the Joe Wicks thing, and then they've started. And Josh has gone and he's done his things, and he's been great, and he's worked through till about 3 o'clock, and we've had he has a break in the morning, and we have some lunch, and then he'll go and do a bit. He'll finish about 3, and then dive on the Xbox.
It's pretty much like me.
Yeah. And but Jack is Jack's needing. Jack will do about 5 or 10 minutes, and then you kind of almost have to be in the room, and of course that's great, but it's 35 years since I was at school.
You can imagine if you had like a class of 15 of them or 30 of them.
Well, yes, and this is the bit now that I don't quite. Though I don't know whether 15 would be easier than 1, and maybe I don't know. But anyway, yes, I have got a lot of time and respect for school teachers.
Because it's those 1 or 2 who are disruptive. That can ruin the whole thing.
Yes, and having just come back from a parents' evening a few weeks ago, Jack is not a disruptive child. So if he's not disruptive, and I'm struggling with him, then how would I struggle with some of the others?
He's probably slightly different because it's you and you're at home, though.
Yeah. No, and I think at the end of the day, we have to take this with a pinch of salt.
Yeah.
Jack's educational, if this is weeks or a couple of months, then this is not going to affect him catastrophically for his future. It is just a point in time. So if we can keep him occupied for a little point, for the next few weeks or a couple of months or whatever, then that's absolutely fine. It becomes interesting if we start to go into 6 months or what have you. At which point,
because what are we, like 4 months, almost just under 4 months away from them actually breaking up anyway, aren't we?
Yes,
that's with exams and everything for some people.
Yeah, and you've got 3 weeks of holiday that fits in before we get to the breakup for school for the summer holidays. Plus, you've got the fact that at Jack's age, that last few weeks in the summer term isn't much of anything anyway. So you might be looking at 10 or 12 weeks, probably woman. Yeah,
at least
12.
So
12
neither of them are at the critical exam age.
No.
For you personally, that's a bonus.
For me personally, that's fine. I think at the moment everything's fine. Everything's. Yeah. We're really lucky because we've got a bit of space in the back garden, and they can go and kick a ball around. And the garden is not going to survive.
No, mine's not with the dogs.
No, it's going to look like the Somme without a shadow of a doubt. Which, by the way, did you put a video on of you? Were you exercising the dog with a torch?
No, it was. I'll put it on here. It was the reflection of my back patio door when the sun was going down.
Right. I thought you were doing that. So I thought that was you doing that.
It here.
Yeah.
So I'm just like opening the door slightly, and the sun's reflecting.
Oh, so you were having a hand in it?
Oh yeah. I'm opening and closing the patio door with the reflection on it, and he's chasing it.
No, that's fine because I thought the worst of you and thought what a cruel git. And then when you said no, it was just the door. Then I felt really bad momentarily, but as it does turn out, you are that guy, so that's fine.
To be fair, he loves shadows and reflections. He loves chasing stuff. I was going to ask was, so how do you think? Do you have faith in humanity if it goes beyond like 3 months?
I actually think the longer it goes on, I think the better we'll get.
I to it.
I think the other thing is I think a lot of things are going to change. There is no normal now. Whatever we go into next will be a new normal. It won't. We're not going to go back to where we were. I think it's going to change. It's going to change how people work because I think working from home will now become an accepted thing, and I think that's going to then change people's work-life balance massively. Yeah. I think the environmental argument is going to become very strong, having had planes out of the air, cars off the road, all manner of things stopping. I think people are really now going to start to question whether you need to make as many journeys as you actually make. I think people will discover different ways of keeping themselves occupied. I think we could end up reading more. We could end up listening to more music. We could end up actually, we've played board games this afternoon. And the kids are going to read. The kids will read more. which can't be a bad thing. So I think we're going to be forced into doing things that then hopefully will become habitual.
Like regularly spending quality like family time together. Because I think we've all become a bit like everyone's always on their phones or on the computer or playing games or whatever.
No, I think all of that will change. I think, it's coming from somebody who used to work with retailers. I don't think we'll shop in the same way moving forward. I think we're all going to start to wonder why we spent as much time. We were terrible as being people who would go to the supermarket 4 or 5 times a week because we were just badly organised and badly disciplined. And I think a lot of that will stop. So I think a lot of our behaviour that we're used to will actually change, and I think a lot of it possibly for the better. The issue will be how well the economy can recover, and then I guess maybe this changes our view on large government as well, because now the government is having to prop up the economy and doing a lot of the things that it's going to have to do to keep people's livelihoods kind of in a holding pattern. That people might get to like that. So, we've gone from austerity to maybe going completely the other way. I mean, I know Jeremy Corbyn said the other day that he kind of vindicated, a lot of this has vindicated what he'd been talking about for a while, but I wasn't a big fan of austerity. I thought it was a terrible idea. I absolutely felt that we needed to change how we were behaving, but I didn't think the way we did it made any kind of sense. And I thought it was remarkably cruel to a large number of people, particularly people who were not in a place where they needed another hammer blow, and austerity was a hammer blow to so many communities, and certainly so many people. So I think all those kind of things are going to get questioned again. I think the whole NHS thing. Yes, every political party really talks about wanting to do stuff for the NHS, but I think that's going to go absolutely bonkers at the end of this. And people are going to be demanding that health service is protected.
Yeah,
and demand
people are saying we should have been like this for years.
Yeah,
I feel like teachers are in a similar sort of position. They're underpaid and overworked.
Yeah,
obviously, it's not like life or death, but it's still the education of your nation.
I think we probably will start focusing back in on the basics. I think we'd become a country that shouted a lot. And I think the one thing in a moment like this is people have stopped shouting quite as much. Now, partly that is the people are anxious and they're fearful. But I think we might start
change. So
yes. There's a lot. That whole thing of I can do whatever I want and there's nothing you can do to stop me. I think that's now moving, because people are now calling out antisocial behaviour, and by antisocial behaviour you are talking about not social distancing, not following the things that we should all be doing. There's a collective sense of we are all in this together, and I hate to hark back to the whole war spirit, simply because I think that argument's been overtaken by the populist front and by the Brexit argument, and I think it to a certain extent got slightly tainted because of how it was used in that particular way. But I do think there is this moment of that kind of backs against the wall spirit, and I think it's coming out, and I think it's actually a good thing. I think it's nice to have recaptured that and it not be a political football. But it is. I watched something on Twitter today. There's a market in an organic farmers market in Hampstead today that had opened, and it had not been prepared at all, and the social distancing had gone out of the window and what have you, and loads of people were calling it out and saying this is ridiculous. I mean,
that in itself was cost lives.
Yes, is organic artichoke really worth the consequences? And it's that almost that bit of, look, don't care that you're in a fairly exclusive area of Hampstead. You're endangering people, and you're endangering people you don't even know, and you don't know where the ramifications will be felt. And I think that is, there's a whole thing of support and community that's going to come out of this that I think probably we've lost, and to be fair, it'll probably break along class lines, it'll break along racial lines, it'll break along, or this will break a lot of things down, because ultimately at the moment people are just starting to look out for people, irrespective of who they are. They're just starting to look out for people, even if it is, do you need anything? Look, I'm making that weekly pilgrimage to Asda. Do you need anything?
That might stay as well. That mentality might stay with us after all this.
Well, it's not going to disappear in a heartbeat.
No.
It's going to take a while to erode it again. And here's hoping that we don't erode it again. And maybe, do you know what? Maybe we'll rediscover social media for all the things that we're using it for now. Maybe we will rediscover how positive. I mean, we've got a coffee shop in the village, and it's brilliant, and it's only open Friday, Saturday, Sundays, and they make fantastic cakes, and it really is top draw. It's up there in my top 5 flat whites of all time, this place, and they've obviously had to close, and it was a real great place to go and just hang out for an hour. They had a virtual coffee morning on Zoom this morning, and they just put something on Instagram, and there were about 20 people just appeared, just to say hello, just to wave. Yeah. We had about 15-20 minutes, just having a little bit of a chin wag, and then it all kind of, and we all went about our separate way. That's never happened.
No.
Now that could have happened 3 weeks ago.
Yeah, could have happened 2 years ago.
Yeah.
I have something similar. We did a Zoom conversation. There was 10 of us with family from all over spread all around. There was like grandparents, aunties, uncles, grandchildren, all together in one conversation. We've never done that before, ever. And we could quite easily do it. And it was fun. And we're going to do it tomorrow. And we're probably going to do it once a week or something like that.
Yeah.
And I can see something like that will continue because we're so far apart. It's like, well, why don't we just keep doing it?
Yeah. Well, Jack FaceTimed his grandma the other day and read to her.
There you go.
and there's no reason why he couldn't have done that every week.
Yeah.
No reason at all. So I think some of these things I'm hoping will stay. But then at the same time, I think we're going to question the things that don't go on for a while and question whether we actually need them.
But not football.
No. Well, I know that's that. Well,
that's a necessity.
Well, hang on. You say that. How many clubs will still be there? This is a very real question.
To be fair, a lot of clubs, especially at the top end, running in the red anyway.
Yes.
That's just the way they operate. So
yes,
it's going to be interesting.
It is going to be very interesting what comes out the back of that. I mean, football will survive and the sport will survive and what have you.
Of course.
But I think it's going to be interesting to see how it shakes up. It's a jolt. So anything that was on the edge, anything that was in any kind of danger, potentially goes now.
Yeah, like some of the store, like Laura Ashley.
Yeah,
they were already struggling within a week of this becoming a thing. Gone.
Yeah.
So
and that's the point when you realise that it's a bit of a survival of the fittest moment.
Yeah.
But I think if the flip of that is that we start questioning things like the amount of time we physically spend in offices, the amount of time we spend remotely when we don't need to, in terms of how much time. I mean, my wife's journey every day is an hour. And if the M62 is bad, it's an hour and a quarter, an hour and a half each way. And the thing has always been, well, she could work from home, but nobody liked to because it was like people think you're not working and what have you. And now that's just proving to be absolute nonsense.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's going to change a lot of things. Already has, and it will continue to change a lot. The longer it goes on, I think the more we'll feel the impact of it. But I think when we're about 80, in our 80s, if we live that long, we'll talk about this the way people who are 80 now talk about the war.
Oh, without a shadow of a doubt.
It's the nearest thing we have to compare it to. Not that it's
the only thing in my lifetime close to that level.
Yeah.
I mean, if I go
5 years though.
Yeah, well, I mean, I was born in 71, so if I think about all the big things in my lifetime that had real impact, you've got the miners' strike, the first real thing that, well, actually, because I didn't really remember Winter of Discontent. I didn't remember sort of lights going out and rubbish in the streets in the late 70s. So Miners' Strike was the first thing for me. And then if you go along, everything by comparison was a moment in time. So yes, 9/11 was a big thing.
It was just an event at the time.
But it was an event.
It wasn't like a long-lasting. It had effects long-lasting, but it actually didn't itself last for a long time.
I think probably.
But it did change things.
Yes, it did, and it changed behaviour, but it only changed behaviour for a little while.
Yeah.
I mean, yes, but here's actually not in one respect, 9/11 is a perfect example of kind of what we're talking about, which is how we flew and travelled changed after that.
Yeah.
We forget what it was like to travel before the Twin Towers came down, because you didn't have to worry about liquids, and you didn't have to worry about what you packed, and you didn't have to worry about all those things, and yet we've forgotten that now. So that changed, and I think maybe there'll be bits of this that come out of, we will be better as a nation at not spreading disease. We just will. I mean, one of the reasons that people like sort of South Korea and a few of the other places have been so good in this is because they went through SARS. Yeah. And they've got a lot of those practices still in place. So they were very good at isolating and finding cases and locking things down very early. Yeah. And of course, we didn't go through that.
Going back to 9/11, I remember sort of profiting from that in a weird way 2 years later when I was in Singapore looking to get a flight to Australia. And then it was just around the beginning of September. And I was looking at prices on September 11th, 2003. Prices were like almost half.
Yeah.
So I thought, well, I'll go then. It was weird. I never thought that would be a thing. But people obviously were and for a few years afterwards, I was in New York 2 years after. So I was in New York on the second anniversary, and didn't think about it when it was all booked. It was a trip that I'm going to name drop. It was a trip that Fender organised, and I got invited on this trip. So I'll name drop just a little there. And we were there, and what was interesting was, and I don't know what it's been like ever since, New York on the morning was weird, because I've been to New York any number of times, and it's exactly what people say. It is the city that never sleeps. It's just constant, and 3 a.m. you can walk around. The place is just alive. That morning, weird, absolutely weird. It was like a ghost town. Nobody came out. And it was absolutely like a ghost town. It changed in the afternoon. They got past the couple of little things they were doing in terms of the ceremony and what have you, and then the place turned back into New York in the afternoon. But in the morning, it was absolutely deathly. And it was funny because I went down to Ground Zero, and it was still a building site. In fact, it wasn't a building site. It wasn't even at a building site stage. And the bit I'd not prepared myself for was I'd never been anywhere where there'd been a mass loss of human life so recently. So you got there, and it was rubble, and it was bent metal, and it just looked like exactly what it was. And this was 2 years afterwards. Yeah, to you it looked like it just happened yesterday.
Yeah. And they had this. They'd left up. There was an upright of concrete with a piece of girder on it that had just ended up, when everything had come down, left, and it was in the shape of a cross, and they'd left it up, and it was the most. And it just stopped you in its tracks. And the funny thing was that you crossed the road to where it was, and you walked around, the fence and the outside and what have you. And the first thing that hit was how deep everything was. The crater, and it was really, really deep, and it was just metal, and it was rubble, and it was all horrific. But it was like when you crossed the road, it was like the city went quiet. It felt, this is going to sound a bit weird, and it sounds like there's loads of artistic license here. It is not, but it was like the temperature dropped about 3 or 4 degrees, and it went quiet and cold. And then you walk 2 blocks back up the street, and it felt normal again. And it was, it's very difficult to explain. I think
that area had an aura.
Yeah, absolutely had an aura, and I think years later, not it was still very very close to how it was, and it was still a scene of devastation, and it was a really straight. Incredible to have that experience, but at the same time quite disturbing. And I'm not into that kind of thing. I'm not that guy that is like,
it's like going to Auschwitz or something like that.
Yeah.
I don't think I would want to go. I've seen footage of people there. And like I can just tell by their reaction. It's like I don't think I'd want to do that.
And I'm going to tell you what. I'll mix up two things now and give you a recommendation. I'm going to mix up New York and Auschwitz.
Okay.
Right. This hasn't been done before. So I'll make up New York and Auschwitz. There's a Amazon Prime new series called Hunters.
I've seen it advertised. Yeah.
It's set in 76, 77 in New York, and it's a group of Jews who and it's not. It sounds awful, doesn't it? That sounds like they're not Orthodox kind of Jews. It's not it's not the long beards and what have you. They just happen to be Jewish, and they're Nazi hunters.
Yes, that's right. I do remember that. Yeah, I've not seen it, but yeah,
it's really really good. But it's what's weird about it is it's filmed in a kind of. Have you seen Ocean's 11?
Yeah.
And have you seen The Big Short? It is The Big Short, isn't it? The one about the financial crash.
Oh yes.
Yeah. It's very much filmed in that kind of way. It's a serious topic, but there's a lot of irreverent things going on. It flips from doing something that's really quite. So they do a game show like Why Does Everybody Hate the Jews in a game show format, which is like really weird. But then it'll go to something that's very very serious. But actually, if you want something really interesting to watch, particularly because Al Pacino is just chewing the scenery. I mean, Al Pacino has become just a fantastic pastiche of himself. So Pacino's just being full on Pacino, and it's really hip. It's really got that 70s kind of hip vibe going on, but it's at the same time there's moments in it that are quite disturbing, that really make you stop and think. So if you found there's your New York Auschwitz mashup, and yeah, it gets a bit formulaic towards the end, but the first few episodes are really quite interesting.
Did you watch Chernobyl?
No, I haven't. That's on the list.
I mean, it's grim viewing, but it probably is. I class it as essential viewing because it kind of makes a historical event more real to you, rather than it just being like what you've been read or what you've been told.
Yeah,
it's. No, I had to have had a few days off after just watching one episode at a time.
Right. It's not a binge watch.
I'm like, I can't go to episode 2 now. No. I'm not ready for it.
No.
In that respect, it's been done really well.
Yeah. Yeah, well, a lot of people at the time said it was absolutely great, and that's on the list of. To be honest, at the moment, I'm trying to eke out. I've only watched one episode so far. We signed up for Disney Plus so I can watch The Mandalorian.
Yeah, I'm toying with the idea to. Mandalorian's good.
Yeah, so I've done the first episode of that and thought it was just fantastic, and as a bit of escapism. And in fact, my 2 bits of escapism at the moment, and I'm really asking you not to judge, and I don't believe I'm saying this out loud. The Mandalorian. And Great Railway Journeys with Michael Portillo, which has become
I don't judge. Whatever you're into, whatever makes you happy.
It's become the guilty pleasure. I've realised I quite like watching, watching that man ride on trains, and as well because I've never come across a human being that could carry off a peppermint jacket with salmon trousers. How do you even do that? So you become addicted. You're just waiting for whatever outfit he's going to wear next, because how do you out-camp what he's previously done? And then he absolutely nails it. A lot of salmon, a lot of mustard, a lot of peppermint.
There is so much TV to watch. And I'm trying to not get into the habit of just, like, especially in the evening, I'm so tempted to just sit and watch something, eating chocolate biscuits. I could quite easily get into that. Or drinking beer, which, I mean... Yeah, I'm technically doing it now.
Yeah, well, I'm doing the same with red wine, and to be fair, it's...
Most night, like tonight, which is why I decided to do it at night, so that I'm not downstairs, just sitting being a couch potato.
Yeah, well, and it is so easy. We're rewatching Veep from the beginning.
I've never seen Veep.
Veep's amazing. I'm a huge fan of Armando Iannucci. The Thick of It's is up there as being the greatest thing ever made. And Veep, which is kind of a similar sort of thing, similar take on the American Vice President. And Veep's amazing. And it just has everything that's right about Thick of It is right about Veep. And the Thick of It, which is astonishing. Unfortunately, there weren't enough episodes, and so you get 8 series of Veep. So,
did you ever watch Seinfeld?
No, Frasier, yes. Seinfeld, no.
Seinfeld's on one of the streaming services. I can't remember which one it is, so you should watch it.
Successful Boston
Look
therapist.
at that. That's Siri. I didn't realise what I said that actually would have.
What was it telling you about?
Frasier.
Brilliant. Always there when you need them.
Oh, God, technology.
Frasier's good. But yeah, but I can't remember which service it's on, but Seinfeld is on one of them. And if you can,
right.
I recommend it.
Right.
It is the world's #1 sitcom of all time.
Right.
For a reason.
In which case, it's on it. Right. I'll whack that on the list, and it has the advantage
the show
of being
about nothing, but it's
right. And there'll be 4,000 episodes, won't there? So there'll be
9 series.
Right, fine. So that's going to keep you going for a while. And that's the great thing about American comedy. We binge watched Parks and Recreation, which if you haven't watched Parks and Recreation is absolutely fantastic. And again, just nonsense, just really beautifully done nonsense.
Well, I think at times like this, you could do with a bit of nonsense every once in a while.
I think you absolutely, and you need a man in a pair of salmon trousers and a peppermint jacket on a train. It's what you need.
I'm trying not to watch too much of the news because it can be a bit.
I'm making a conscious effort not to.
During the day, I'm trying to just get on with stuff, and then at night, obviously, we have the media briefing. So around then, I'll start tuning in, seeing what's been going on. Well, I have alerts on my phone if there's any major headlines, but other than that,
it's funny I don't. And I think I kind of almost don't want to know what the numbers are, but in reality, you have this morbid fascination with knowing. Who's got it and how many people have died, and it's terrible. But
it's what we all want to know at the end of the day.
Yeah. So I'm trying not to, because you could spend all day on it, and we're finding it very difficult to talk about other things.
I know. We've spent a lot of this podcast talking about it, but because it's on everyone's mind because it's the reason we're all having to change our lives. So.
Yeah. Well, plus all the other diversions aren't there, so you can't talk about football. You can't talk about new movies because there aren't any. There might be bits of new music, but you can't talk about the gig you've been to because there isn't a gig that you've been to. You can't talk about the new thing that you bought because, what is the new thing that you bought, and nobody's going anywhere apart from a supermarket. I could bore you on the things I've managed to put right around the house.
Well, people are using that time to things have been putting off. This is now. You've got no excuse to put it off.
No. So I can.
The wife's going. Here's this list. For 6 years.
Well, what today I have I fitted or replaced a solar inverter today.
I don't even know what a solar inverter is.
Right. So we've got panels on our roof, solar panels on our roof.
Right.
And they generate, and I didn't know any of this, by the way, until very recently, but I just thought it was magic. I just thought it was magic, and we got to check every 3 months, and it's great. And there's a box in the loft, and I always knew it was there. And what it does is the current that comes from the panels is DC.
So an AC/DC converter.
Yes, so it's an inverter that takes it from direct current to alternating current, so it can then be fed effectively back through the consumer unit, and we use some of it, and the rest is fed back onto the grid. So the grid takes back what we don't use, and that's what they pay us for. And these units have a lifespan of anything between 6 and 10 years, and our 9-year-old unit went, so we need a new unit. And a mate of mine said, do you know what? I reckon I could fit that. So I was like, well, okay, fine. And I did a bit of research and I bought a new inverter. And then he's kind of said, well, social distancing, we can't both be in your loft. So I then started looking at how complicated it would be. And it's not actually that complicated. It is relatively plug and play. Well, the only problem with it is DC. And I didn't know any of this, but
it's one of those things where if you get it wrong, you die.
Yes, that's exactly it. So the way it works is that if you pick up something in the house, so if you go through the mower cable, and you happen to do what I did once, which is then pick up the bit that I've just just gone through, it gives you a jolt. It gives you a proper belt, and you drop it. DC is the thing whereby if you're holding it, you can't let go. So that one of kind of odd job in Goldfinger where he's shaking up and down.
He's a conductor.
Yeah. So and we don't use DC in homes. I'm assuming for that reason. So the problem with DC is if you do get a jolt from it, you're not coming back from it unless somebody physically has to knock you off, and has to knock you off with something that won't conduct. Which I found out. So the only scary thing about this, because it was relatively easy to do, was switching the isolators off, then hoping the DC isolators actually did their job and isolated the current. There's a big thing saying don't be conscious in daylight hours, because essentially the panels are still generating electricity. They're still generating current. So, and then there was the bit, and I wish I'd filmed it, because it was me kind of going, on the bits I had to unplug. So doing that thing of trying to...
It's like bomb diffusal. Is it red or is it green? Do I cut? Which way do I cut? I'm still alive, so I've still got the right one.
Yeah. So it ended up being fine. And you plugged it in and you put it all back in and it switched it on. And I've got a little box in the garage which counts, and that's good, because when it's counting, it means I'm going to get paid. Okay. So it's back counting. It had stopped counting, but it's back counting. So so I fit a solar inverter today. So that's a new thing. That wasn't on the list.
That's something.
And we happened to have we got it sent before the lockdown, and
yeah.
So I fitted a solar inverter.
Before we wind down, what guitars have you got in the background?
So there's a Simon and Patrick acoustic there, which were Canadian brand, I believe. Absolutely fantastic. It's a solid top. There was not a lot of money. They were. I mean, that's 16, 17 years old, and they were about £300 or £400, and they're just absolutely fantastic. Then you've got there's Yamaha Pacifica on that wall, which is a 312.
You say that.
You have one as well.
I can get it out. I'm left-handed though. This was my first ever guitar when I was 15. So in 1996.
I should have kept my first guitar.
Left-handed.
I should have kept my first guitar. I had a Japanese Squire Strat. Should have kept that.
I've played it for a long time. But
that's beautiful.
I've never liked the wood finish on guitars, and that's when I hate scratch plates.
Right.
So.
See, I like both those things you don't like. So that's
what makes the world go round.
Well, yeah, that's a 312. And I bought that second hand from somebody I knew in a music shop, and he couldn't sell it. Nobody wanted it, and I paid £80 for it. And it's got Seymour Duncan pickups in it. The pickup itself is worth more than I paid for the guitar. And then there's a Yamaha bass. Don't ask me what the model is, because it was one I'm going to name drop again. I got given by Yamaha years and years and years ago. And then this one, which I will reach over and grab if I can just about manage it. Hang on.
Oh, I like the colour. I like the colour.
So that's... Oh, dear. I've lost an earphone.
He's lost a bud.
I've lost a bud. So that is a Japanese Fender. So that's a 62 reissue in seafoam green, and I bought that from a shop called Sound Control in Newcastle in 1990. I'm going to say 1994. And I actually bought it from a guy called Steve Gray, who is now one of the directors of Guitar, who did a load of other jobs, but ended up being one of the Guitar directors. And he worked at Sound Control at the time, and he actually sold me this guitar because he ended up working for, name drop again, he ended up working for Line 6 first and then Fender. I ended up getting to know him when I started to work in the industry. So, and that's a 1986, because it was secondhand when I bought it. And I've had loads of guitars. And I've only ever really kept one or two, and this one's never gone anywhere. And Alison bought this for me, And then it's got a hot rails in it, and that's a Wilkinson tremolo.
Lift it up a bit.
Um,
oh yeah.
And that's the one that's never gone anywhere. So that's the baby, that one.
Was that the one you used to record the riff on your podcast?
That was I used the Pacifica for that.
Okay.
I love that little riff.
Yeah, it's memorable, so you associate it with the podcast.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. I love the little riff. The Pacifica did that. Because the Pacifica's the string. You said that you haven't played yours much, and I play mine very rarely. And the strings on the Pacifica are marginally better than the strings on the Strat.
Okay.
Both. We're talking in years. Both of them are well over a year since they've been restrung. So this is awful. This is really awful. Whereas the Pacifica's slightly better. So because of that, these are so dead. They don't feel too bad when my fingers don't sweat that much, so they don't feel too bad on my fingers. They're not like rusty and horrible, but you plug it in and they just sound flat, absolutely flat. So whereas the Pacifica had a bit more of a twang about it, so I used the Pacifica for that. I can do it from there.
Good old
just about.
Wall guitar holders. What a great invention.
Oh, what a great invention! What a fantastic invention.
This ended up being my main guitar, which is an ESP limited.
I was just going to say it's an ESP, isn't it? That's
50.
Yeah.
My own stickers on it.
Yeah. That is very nice.
It's not my most expensive guitar, but it just worked. It just ended up sounding best when I put the Seymour Duncans in it. It ended up sounding best out of all of them with my setup. I don't know why. So
well, I'm the same. I've always been a Fender guy, and I've had Americans, and ended up coming back to that Japanese one every single time. It doesn't follow at all.
This is my other one.
Gaskell,
which is an Australian company. So
right. Okay.
I had it custom made because trying to get a left-handed custom shaped guitar is not easy. Yeah. So cool. I just love the finish on it. It's really cool.
It's beautiful.
With EMGs on it. So it's a bit of a beast.
Yes.
So
but as you're saying, you need to start playing again then. If you've not been playing much.
Now is the time.
Now's the time. What do they go through? Because you must have some like 15 cabs or something. I would imagine.
No, I've only got the one. It's in storage actually.
Right.
A Mesa Boogie cab.
Right.
I was
going to say it's probably
with a Pive JSX head, Joe Satriani, the Joe Satriani version.
Oh yeah.
Really cool. But loud enough.
Oh yeah.
But so it's been a while. But I'm hoping that me and you can maybe do some regular. We can check it every once in a while, do one of these, and I might just
would love to
because I'm not going to be able to get to a podcast studio for quite some time. So although I avoided doing podcasts like this, just because I preferred obviously face to face, it's a better conversation. I might just have to bite the bullet and do this for a while. So I've got a few list of people who are they live miles away anyway. So I might as well now
do it this way around.
The time. If you're not going to be able to meet face to face.
I've always felt exactly the same way as you. I think it's helped that we sat and did one anyway. I think it's easier to talk to somebody you've actually met and spend a little bit of time with. So I think that helps. But I think we're going to have to do it. We haven't got much choice.
No.
Really. I mean, as I said to you earlier on, I'm not a fan. I'd rather for the purposes of both the conversation and also of quality. But then this. I don't know what it sounds like to everybody else out there, but to me, this sounds great.
Yeah,
I mean, you sound fantastic. So it's easily usable. How does the audio come off? Does it come off as just a single stereo file?
Yeah, it's attached to this XSplit software. Will just attach the audio to the video from the microphones in your feed. So which is on the fly. So when I hit stop, this is done.
This is done. Yeah.
So that's what I love about XSplit. Yeah, I'm just experimenting with this. So right now I'm live streaming to Periscope, which is Twitter, Facebook Live, and YouTube Live. So we've never done any of that before on the podcast. I tell you what, it's also really hard without producer tech because anything that has to be done, I have to I sort of lose concentration with the conversation while I do something. Makes you realise how important he is.
Well, particularly for a man who never seemed to be actually concentrating for 1 second on what was going on around him. He never seemed to leave looking at his phone, and yet he was doing stuff at the same time. That's quite impressive.
He's a pro. Multitasking. He just, because he listens and he is paying attention. He just knows when something's like not right. He knows exactly instantly what knob to twiddle.
Yeah.
Or button to press.
Hate people like that. Is he Joe Wick's equivalent? Really, I'm going to have a difficult relationship with him as well, aren't I? That's not going to.
It makes me realise how useful that is, so I can just focus on the conversation. But the more I do this, the more I'll get used to it.
So did we find out if we picked up the Ant and Dec audience? Did they leave Ant and Dec and congregate with us?
I haven't worked out how I can, whilst I'm doing this, look at the stats. There probably is a separate screen that I could put up somewhere, but this is producer tech's world, not mine. I'm sort of just winging it here. Right.
There's some guy called Gerald, isn't there, in South Shields, and that's it. We should have just invited him on.
Yeah, should have.
I'm looking at 4 things on the screen. I mean, literally,
Yeah, they could be people.
You could just invite the first 3 listeners. Just get to take part.
Yeah, I mean, we could do that. See, the technology is fantastic that allows us to do this. Keep in touch with people.
No, I think it is superb. I think it's. The other thing is it's nice because. I loved doing the podcast with you. Really, really enjoyed it. Couldn't believe that we spoke for as long as we spoke.
Over 2 hours just went like that.
Yeah. And we've spoken quite a bit since and messaged quite a bit since, which was really nice as well. So it's really great to do this kind of thing because, like you say, you need this sanity moment because it hasn't all been. Yes, we've talked a bit about what's going on, but we've also, we've strayed away from the global pandemic onto lighter topics like 9/11.
And guitars. But in a way, as there's people doing this, like stuff like this all around the world. Yeah. We're a document of what's happening now on this planet. Yeah. So, as well as talking about that, we're also talking about what else. I mean, we're trying to sort of do other things. Well, it's making us do other things. So we should have stuff to talk about because we're all doing stuff that we wouldn't normally do, like spend a lot of time with your family.
Well, yes.
For some people.
Yes.
I mean, I wonder how many divorces will be filed at the end of all this.
Oh, this is the big thing, isn't it? Everybody's said it's going to be the gardens. It's going to have the best looking gardens.
The cleanest cars they've ever had. The best cut grass.
Yes, best cut grass. Gardens are going to be great. Charity shops are going to be absolutely full as soon as we can start taking the stuff that we've sorted through.
Yep. Defrosted fridges.
Defrosted fridges. There's going to be a baby.
Cleaned ovens.
Be a baby boom.
Emptied cupboards. Scrub out your cupboards.
Scrub out your cupboards. There'll be a baby boom.
Oh, that for definitely.
And there's gonna be a load of people get divorced.
Yeah, I think we've said
that's gonna be. So actually, how long does it take to train to be a divorce lawyer? And can you do it? Is there a YouTube course that'll do?
Probably. Yeah. There's a YouTube course for everything.
For everything. In which case, we need to do that. We should be training as divorce lawyers because there's going to be a load of cash floating around.
So I think we should probably try and just. I mean, you do it in your podcast anyway. But like, make a note of what you've done. I don't know how often we'll do this, but make a note of if something different or interesting's happened. We'll just save it and talk about it on here.
Well, I've got 5 things a week on my podcast anyway, so I'll just rehash. I'll play my greatest hits.
The thing about doing this is, for me, this is more to my social media side of it, like because it's not. Hopefully I will be able to put this out as a podcast, but like doing the live stream is going more to your social media side. I always find in podcasts there's a disconnect between. Sometimes I'll do stuff on social media that won't get much interaction, but when I put it out as a podcast, it gets loads.
Yeah.
So. Which is, the downloads are the most important thing. So it's trying to. This for me is encouraging me to be more interactive, social media wise, which is something I've kind of done, but not sort of spent that much time doing. So it's forcing me to sort of up my game, social media wise, which is going to be a good thing.
Though to be fair, as you realised when you were prodding me to find out what I'd actually done to support the podcast we did, that you found somebody that is worse at social media than you are. So at least if you're using me as some kind of benchmark, then you were already good at. Yeah. I'm absolutely shocking. I really am. Particularly when I've got to teach a 7-year-old through the day as well. That's just sapping every little bit of creative energy I've got. But you're right in the respect of, I mean, my podcast isn't very old, and obviously I'm still at the very early stages of starting to build an audience for that. But there is an opportunity now to actually think about pushing it, because I've got enough episodes there that, I think number 13 went out today. So there's enough there that there's a little bit of a back catalogue that people can actually invest in. Yeah. And now's a good time to actually sort of stop and say, right, well, okay, I've amassed a little bit of content, not loads, but a little of content. Yeah. How do I now look at kind of focusing on that?
You can repurpose your content as well on social media by saying, here's a list, here's what I've done, here's my back catalogue. You can, because you're on Spotify, aren't you?
Yes.
So that's a good one to share, because it's every platform can get Spotify.
Yeah, and to be fair, the Spotify numbers are though I'm more and more intrigued by where people do listen, because I just assumed it'd be all Spotify and Apple, and it's not actually. Yeah. It's quite.
We get more downloads in the US than we do anywhere. Yeah, I never thought that would be a thing.
No. I'm talked about this. I'm still doing quite well in Germany.
Big in Germany, you like Hasselhoff. Big in Germany.
I am like the Hoff. So I don't know, but no, it's a nice time to be able to, because I am shocking at actually promoting it particularly. So it's a moment to try and do a little bit more with it, I guess.
Cool. Well, I'm gonna let's say goodbye to all of the live streamers.
Yes, let's say goodbye. Bye, live streamers.
If anyone has tuned in,
if there's anybody there at all,
there's no way.
Gerald,
I haven't figured out if I can get comments or because the last time I did it just directly to Facebook Live, I could see people commenting and I could respond to them. So I haven't worked out how to do that within this software. So I'm sure there's a way. So anyway, I might
actually. Well, I might have a look. I might have a look now.
Bye, everyone.
Bye. Great to talk to you.
Facebook.